That's fine. But that's not where I'm staying, said Colin Kaepernick. And when I prove that I'm a starter, I want to be able to step on the field as such. I just need the opportunity to walk through the door. Well, that's a horrifying comment to most NFL owners, I believe, because he's saying, I won't sit still as a backup. And Shannon, you know and I know the greatest backups, the best backups, are those who are seen but not heard. They're those who just toil in the shadows just in case. And you hope you don't even see them in the light of play because you hope your starter just stays upright the whole year. Well, Colin's saying, just let me have my foot in the door. And here would be the hypothetical situation. As you know, I've struggled with Dak. I thought he just fell apart down the stretch last year when they went 6-5 over the last 11 games. He made way too much money, $75 million. He did not live up to that. He did not justify that kind of salary plus bonus. And let's do the hypothetical. Let's say that they signed Colin, and in Game 3, Dak has a game like he had against your Denver Broncos when they fell behind 30-0 early in the fourth quarter. Do you realize what the outcry, the swell of public sentiment would be for Colin Kaepernick to replace Dak Prescott? That's what Jerry wouldn't want to have to live with or fight through. Would be, obviously, Colin has a very strong part of the NFL fandom who would be very pro-Kaepernick and would be very quick to scream for Colin to be the starting quarterback, which would put a lot of pressure on whatever starter he's backing up. Well, we've always said for years that the most popular player on the team is always the backup quarterback. Well, that's if he's on an up-and-comer. That's if he's a young quarterback that you think he has a chance to ultimately be the starting quarterback. So I think that a lot of teams wouldn't want to bring Colin in because maybe he'd quickly be too big of a public threat to their starting quarterback. Does that make sense?
Skip, it does make sense, Skip. But I just don't. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's the cynicism and the skepticism that's in me.
Yep.
But I just don't believe that what he's doing is going to lead to an invite. I just don't, Skip. I don't. Like I said, the draft is right around the corner. They're going to get an opportunity to get a guy, get young guys. And that's not to say I don't believe Cap can play. I don't believe Cap's skills are now where they were 5 years ago, Skip. It's hard to get better at something when you haven't said something in 5 years. What person you know, Skip, set something down, regardless of what it is. But imagine if you rely on your skills, your ability, your athletic ability, and says, you know what, I'm going to sit this down for 5 years, and I'm going to go pick it back up, and I'm going to pick up right where I left off. It doesn't happen like that. Nobody, God didn't create an individual that talented that they can sit down. Michael Phelps could stop swimming for 5 years and come pick right back up and be a gold medalist. Or Serena Williams sit a tennis racket down for 5 years and come back and win events. It doesn't happen like that. You get better at something by doing said something, which Colin hadn't done in over 5 years, Skip. I prayed that Colin would have adopted this policy 5 years ago, Skip. But for whatever reason, I get it. I think a lot of times when things happen and it's so fresh, you take this defiant stance. It's going to be this. I want it like this, and it needs to be like that.
Yeah.
As opposed to say, you know what? I'll take whatever comes to me, and when they give me the opportunity, I'm going to kick the door in, and I'm going to make everybody else look foolish for not signing me. But the team that did sign me is going to get major kudos because they saw something that nobody else was willing to see. I just skipped after 5 years. I just don't know. I don't believe it. I hope I'm wrong because I want to see. But if he goes out there and he doesn't play well, then what, Skip? Yeah. Then what happens?
Okay. That's a whole other issue. Yeah, I got you. I will say this, and Colin made a strong point yesterday. The climate, the racial climate has changed at least a little bit. More to Colin's way of thinking. I think he would be much more accepted now than he was when he first started to kneel during the anthem. I think many more fans, you could do black, white, whatever color, have come around to Colin's position now. They're much more open to his view of life in America, for black people, especially as it relates to law enforcement. So his point yesterday was you have in racism in the back of your end zone, and you have, as you pointed out earlier, Black Lives Matter on your helmets. So he's saying everything I've said should be in alignment with what you're saying publicly. And then he goes into, it is a $16 billion business. And he said, when I first took a knee, my jersey went to #1. So he's saying, I can also help you sell your product of the National Football League because a lot of people out there will buy my jersey. Well,
right.
I'm all for, I'm bullish on both points. He's correct about that. Yet the problem, the sticking point remains that he did sue these guys. And as you know, and you've said 1,000 times or maybe 1 billion times on this show, that these guys are not to be trifled with. And once
right.
you push them into a corner, back them up against the wall, they're not going to be real quick to forgive and forget and say, we welcome you back with open arms. So that's what Colin's up against.
No, because, Skip, normally when you settle with someone, you settle for them to go away.
Yeah.
You don't settle with
Right.
someone and says, okay, hey, man, this is my dog, man. I just settled a court settlement with him.
Exactly.
Man, we cool all over again. That's not how it works.
No.
You sue me, we're never going to be cool again.
Yep. Okay, so this is what shakes me up a little bit about Colin and his new stance. He was so inspirational to me with the guts and courage that it took to protest the way he protested, and he paid with his literal job for it. He risked and he lost on the job front. I thought he won on the racial social justice front. And as we heard, if you've seen parts, bits of, sound bites from, or listened to the whole or watched the whole podcast, the I Am Athlete, Colin Kaepernick is an orator to me. He's not a good speaker. He's a great speaker. And I seriously thought that once the NFL shunned him, that he would then go down the path of a social justice crusader and make that his new life's work. And again, I'm not saying Dr. King, because there hasn't been one, and I'm not sure there ever will be another one. But I am saying powerful orator, and you could see in his sound bites that I saw from yesterday that he's very moving and convincing in the points that he makes. And yet I found it so frustrating that he just dropped out of sight 5 years ago. I kept waiting to hear, and I heard nothing. He wrote some things, and they were powerful, but there's something about the ability to stand at a microphone and move people with your emotions and your vocal cords that's even more powerful than print to me. So in the end, I wanted Colin to be that guy, and apparently he wasn't comfortable pursuing that new life work. And apparently after 5 years, it's a long time, you're right. I think he woke up one day, I don't know, 3-4 months ago and said, you know what? I miss this so badly. The hourglass is about empty. I got to try this. And he says that his reps are reaching out to every team, but have heard nothing back yet. So now it's starting to border on a sad situation where he's out there knocking on doors that are unanswered.
Aren't being opened.
Yes.
Right. Skip, but here's what he didn't realize. By taking the stance of being silenced, he did the NFL a favor. Yeah. Because, Skip, if he's not talking, the NFL is not talking about it, nobody else is going to be talking about it. So by he taking a stance of, Skip, it's kind of like news. Hey, if something comes out, let's just see. If we don't mention it, let's see how long it stays in the news cycle. Normally, hey, you don't talk about it, it'll go away. So the NFL was just hoping nobody's talking about it. Cap would just go away. Cap being silenced, Cap just went away. Now he's coming back, like you said. They're sending out, Skip, let me tell you the NFL. Cap said they do $16 billion a year, right? Okay, $16 billion. All of these clubs are worth at least, let's say for the sake of argument, even the Browns are worth not Browns, the Bengals are worth $2 billion, $2.3 billion. That might be the lowest, them and the Jags. Skip, don't you think If they want to know a quarterback, they know a quarterback in South Dakota. They know about a quarterback at Ferrum State.
Yep.
They know Cap is out there. His representative doesn't have to send, oh, he's ready to go. If they wanted Cap, they'd have went and got Cap long time ago.
Yep.
I get it. Kudos. Your representative, they're supposed to work to you. But, Skip, it's not an accident that they've sent invites or whatever to all 32 teams, and they've heard nothing back.
I agree. And yet, final point about Cap that he made yesterday was the reason I stayed so silent for 5 years was that the knock on me was that I would be such a distraction to another team, that I would create a media circus. So he was trying to sell yesterday, I went silent to show you I wouldn't be a media circus. Well, I'm not sure that adds up for me. I'm not sure that's exactly why you went silent for 5 years. And then his final point yesterday was he tried to remind us that he did in 2016, that last year that he played in San Francisco, he did win the team's what's called the Lynn Ashmont Award, which recognizes the most inspirational and courageous play within the 49ers. So he's trying to say, I've never been a divisive figure in a locker room. I'll second that emotion.
Right.
But obviously, he became one of the all-time most divisive figures outside the locker room with the stance that he took. All in a very positive way in the end. But I'm afraid he's paid for it with the rest of his career.
You're probably right, Skip. But in